Today we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 to 13, and it says this: "This future revelation of the kingdom of heaven can be likened to 10 bridegrooms who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 were foolish and 5 were wise. Although the foolish ones took their lamps, they did not take any spare oil with them. However, they took jars of oil as well as their lamps. However, the wise took jars of oil as well as their lamps. Now because the bridegroom was such a long time in coming, they all became tired and fell asleep. Then at midnight they heard a shout, 'Here comes the bridegroom, come and meet him.' All the bridesmaids awoke and prepared their lamps. But the foolish ones said to the wise, 'Oh, our lamps are going out, give us some of your oil.' But the wise ones replied, 'No, there is not enough for all of us. You must go and buy some oil for yourselves.' But while on the way to the store the bridegroom arrived, the wise bridesmaids were ready and followed him into the wedding suite. Then the doors were shut. Later, the foolish ones arrived. 'Sir, sir,' they pleaded, 'open the door so we can come in.' But the bridegroom responded, 'I tell you the truth, I do not know you. So be on the alert, because you do not know the day or the time when the bridegroom will come.'" There's a warning there, and the warning is telling us to be ready. And we all have to be ready. We have to be ready for Jesus' return. And we really don't know when Jesus is going to return. It could be today. It could be tomorrow. It could be in 10 years' time. We just don't know. But one thing we do know is that God tells us to be ready. Each and every one of us should be ready. There were wise bridesmaids and there were foolish bridesmaids. The wise ones were all ready and prepared. The foolish ones, they were caught out, and it was the last minute when Jesus returned. It was midnight. They would probably be sleeping, they would probably be tired and maybe a bit disorientated, but when the bridegroom came, they just weren't ready. Today, are you ready for Jesus' return? If Jesus was to return tonight, are you ready now? We should always be living as though Jesus is coming back very, very soon, because we do know he is coming soon. And even if Jesus doesn't come back soon, we don't know how much time we personally have on this earth. We may only have one more day left. We may have 30, 40, 50 years. We just don't know. We should always live in expectancy of Jesus' return. Today, are you ready? If you watch an athlete getting ready to run a race, he has his feet in the blocks, he's bending down, his feet are in the blocks, his hands are touching the ground, and he's listening for the gun to go off, so that as soon as that gun goes off, he can be out there. He can be running his fastest, he can be running his best, but he's listening for the gun to go off. He's ready. He's not just standing there hanging around eating a sandwich. He's actually ready and waiting for that gun to go off. He recognizes the time, and he's ready to run. Have you ever been late? I was late once, and when I was on a train. My train was coming in, and I was looking at the watch, and I'm thinking, my goodness, if we're not careful, we're going to miss the next train, because I was trying to get a connection, and we got in, and I thought, we're never going to make it, and I ran to the next destination where the train was going to be, and I missed that train by about 2 minutes. That was it. Just 2 minutes. But I was late. It wasn't specifically my fault. It was the other train. There would have been plenty of time if the other train had been in on time. But the other train, the first train, was late, and that affected me for the second train. So when I get there, the train has already gone. Now, I could cry and I could moan and I could complain, but there's nothing that I could do. I was late. The train had already left. I couldn't even call the conductor and say, "Listen, you have to bring the train back, it's not my fault." He wasn't going to come back. I'd missed the train. Today, are you ready? We have to be ready. The Bible tells us that Jesus is coming again. We don't know where. We do know where, because the Bible says it'll be on the Mount of Olives, but we don't know when. It could be any time. And all the signs are actually pointing to that fact, to the fact that Jesus is going to return someday. The Bible says in the last days lawlessness will increase. There will be more lawlessness on the earth. People will just do whatever they want. People won't really care. They'll just do whatever they think is right in their own eyes, and they don't really care who they hurt. And we see it today. You know, we see children today, because of our political correctness, children can do anything. They can get away with whatever they want. They don't have to respect an adult, because at the end of the day, you can't touch me. You're not allowed to say anything to me. You touch me and I'll tell the police. I'll go to the police about it. So children know their rights, and it just brings lawlessness. There is no sense of law. I've heard that in Scotland, you know, some of the children that are on drugs are 8 to 9 years old, and the people that are pushing those drugs are 13. Why would a 13-year-old be pushing drugs? Because the people who are actually behind all this, they know a 13-year-old child cannot go to prison. So they're using the young people to actually get to the even younger people to get them onto drugs. And once a child of 9 years old is on drugs, we know that we've gone so far down the hill into depravity, and it is really, really bad. Children know that they can get away with anything. You know, today as well, you look in society, we've become like Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah was evil and it was wicked. The people were homosexuals, they were doing all kinds of depraved things. And we look at society today, and not only is this happening, but people are celebrating it as well. So things have changed so much. It's a sign of God's judgment. Today we're just as evil as in the times of Sodom and Gomorrah. And what did God do to Sodom and Gomorrah? He destroyed them as an example. They were destroyed as an example for you and me. They were destroyed so that we could learn a lesson, say this is the sort of thing you do not do, and if you do, judgment is coming. And we can see that judgment will be coming upon the nations because they've turned away from God's ideals, they've turned away from God's standards, and they're just doing their own thing. We need to be careful that we don't get swept away with sin in the world, because it's very easy for us to want to just go out and do the same thing as well and say, well, everybody else is doing it. It seems today that the big sin today is to call sin, sin. You can't do that anymore because we don't want to offend people. We're not allowed to offend people anymore. If you say the truth, then you're a bigot or you're a liar or you're a hypocrite, and we have to be very, very careful. But sin is sin, and we need to call sin, sin. We don't talk about sin anymore. We're not allowed to talk about sin anymore because we don't want to hurt people. They're just slight indiscretions now. It's not sin. We need to call it as it is. It's sin. Political leaders are allowed to live an immoral lifestyle. You know, it doesn't matter. But does moral character make a difference in running a country? You know, just because someone could be immoral, maybe having affairs with different women, does that mean they can't run a country? Well, of course it does. You know, it does make a difference. If they're corrupt and immoral in the little things, then they will be corrupt and immoral in bigger things, but they will also lead the nation into corruption and immorality as well. They will change the laws to suit themselves. So then we've been given over to a depraved mind. When the nation is handed over to sin, it is the sign that God's hand is off us and He's handed us over to that depraved mind.